Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. It is nice and hot today. Record highs here. But yeah, hopefully you're staying cool and just enjoying the weekend. But we got a lot to unpack and a lot to cover. So let's just go ahead and dive into everything. First, looking up here at the charts, we're looking at the SPY. We can see that we're still trading at all-time highs. Yeah, everything's in good alignment here. Staircase up. Hopefully no surprises, but we do got a lot of things to go over as far as the economic calendar, as far as earnings. So we definitely want to keep our head on a swivel as we progress through the week ahead. But yeah, as I mentioned, the SPY continues to melt higher, although momentum is relatively flat, and we could argue that this is a little bit of a divergence here on the momentum as the SPY continues to make fresh all-time highs. We can see that the momentum is not making new highs as well. So that could be something to point out here as we progress through the week. Now, if we look at smaller time frames, yeah, this is the 30-minute chart here. We can see that we've just been doing this constant thing where we have a rally, then we base out, we rally a little bit more, we create a base, and then we rally some more. Like I mentioned here, tight range over these past few days, Thursday and Friday, and finally we did get a little bit of that breakout to close out the week, but it has been a little bit of a grind, a little bit of a choppy situation. So just want to, play things to your advantage, be good on your entries and so forth. So as we look here on the SPY daily, we can see that we do have a little bit of support down here at about the 618 mark. Even so, down at the 613, if things were to get a little extra frothy and retest this breakout on the SPY, I don't really see it just yet. Everything continues to point to the upside, so we're just going to leave it as that. Moving on to the NASDAQ with the QQQ. Same thing, also showing strength as the melt up continues. Seems like every time we have a red day, we just kind of bounce back and break into fresh all-time highs. You get that same little situation here that we've seen on the SPY, where momentum just kind of stalls out. Possible negative divergence, but that's just a signal right now. It's nothing to really act upon. But nonetheless, everything seems to be aligned on most of the time frames here. When I say aligned, we can show that if we put up some moving averages, we can see that the 21 EMA, which is this green dotted line, continues to act as support. The 21 is above the 50 simple moving average, and the 50 simple moving average is above a rising 200 simple moving average. So all in all, everything's looking pretty good here for the NASDAQ as well. If we go out to the Dow is still kind of itching to break out into fresh all-time highs. We haven't quite gotten it yet, although we have seen several Dow names make pretty good moves. But for the most part, the Dow has been kind of held back, and it could be a reflection of the weighting that United Healthcare has on the Dow itself. UNH does have earnings coming up this week, so we'll get a better understanding as how far their numbers are looking, and maybe some clarification as far as the whole DOJ investigation goes and so forth. But as it says, UNH is just not something that I'm willing to touch right now, as it continues to make new lower lows, and it is guilty until proven innocent, meaning that it is trading below all the key moving averages. It still can't get above the daily 50 simple moving average. I do have this dart pull print marked off at around the 300 mark, 300, 310. If it can get above the daily 50 and this dart pull print, yeah, we could possibly entertain the idea of going long here and seeing what we can make out of it. But if I zoom out, like way out, have a big support level down here at 207.50, 210. This is going to be like your COVID lows mark. So if we get all the way down there, I think this is a fantastic spot to maybe do a little bit of dollar cost averaging or even start a starter position here. But yeah, 208 looks almost promising to have a nice little order sitting there and see what happens. But as it sits, yeah, UNH is going through some pain, and as it, looking at the diamonds, still a little bit struggle, but you know what? Other sectors are doing really well, such as financials and industrials. We'll get to that in a minute, and that is definitely helping out the Dow altogether. Moving on to the IWM, we can see that it's still doing okay. It's not the best index out there by any means, especially when you compare that to tech or the S&Ps, financials, you name it. The IWM continues to lag. Of course, there's still some frothiness within the market. You're seeing pops within some of these small cap names, maybe even some pump and dump runs here and there with certain names. So you got to be careful if you're even entertaining some of those high risk individual names. So like Oscar is one of those that kind of comes to mind. I'm not too sure if that's even part of the IWM, but you kind of catch my drift on that. Anyways, you got some resistance here at 230, bigger support down at 210. It took a lot of energy to get above 210, and now we're just seeing the benefits of finally breaking out above that. And as we're following the 21 EMA, it's still pretty good for a long, even though it's not as impressive as the Dow or the SPY or the QQQ. If we zoom out to the 1 hour, you can see it's a little bit more messier here. It's it doesn't have too much structure, but nonetheless, it is still holding a pattern of higher highs and higher lows. And until something breaks on that, yeah, you could definitely long this. Just be a little bit more on the cautious side as the overall market continues to make all-time highs. If we do get a pullback, yeah, the IWM is going to pull back with the rest of the market, even so. But all right, those are the main indices. Let's go ahead and take the time now to jump into the calendar here, as we got ourselves a busy week, not just with the earnings, but with the economic calendar data. We got big boy earnings from Visa on Tuesday after the bell. On Wednesday after the close, we got Meta and Microsoft and Robinhood. And then on Thursday, we got earnings on Apple and Amazon. And then closing the week, we got earnings from ExxonMobil and Chevron, key energy names there. I'm not going to go into detail on all these individual names. You can do that on your own. But you do want to be aware of what's going on this week as far as the earnings calendar as well as the economic calendar, because we pretty much have market moving situations pretty much every single day this week. So yeah, maybe now's a good time to remind everybody to maybe trade smaller and just have that situational awareness throughout every day. This week, Monday's pretty much the only kind of lax day. You do got waste management, but there's nothing market moving. We could argue that there's nothing to market moving on Tuesday. It isn't until Wednesday where we get Meta and Microsoft reporting. But you got some good names throughout the week, such as waste management, Visa, Starbucks, Booking, Spotify, UPS will be a good one to watch. As far as the transports goes and all of that. But moving on to the economic calendar. Yeah, I mean, this is even busier when it comes to this week. So let's go ahead and start with the breakdown here. As you can see, Monday, nothing going on. So that's nice. We start out the week kind of quiet. Then we have the JOLTS job openings on Monday, which is just the measurement of job openings. So a higher reading pretty much suggests that firms could be struggling to hire, and wage pressures could build off of that. But a stronger job market is good, especially for this economic environment that we are in, with interest rates still being high, and so forth, tariffs, AI, you name it. So we still want to continue to see job openings to be pretty much robust. Then we get the consumer confidence. This just gauges, how confident are households viewing the current economic situation, especially with the future, and how they're how spending is going and all that kind of good stuff. Then moving on to Wednesday, we have our ADP non-farm employment. This is our first big jobs data report. This is an early look at our employment growth, which is released 2 days ahead of the government released employment data. So we do want to continue to see private payrolls to be strong. We want to continue to see a robust jobs market and employment that will continue to, keep rates steady and show that the economy is doing well despite tariffs. Then we get our advanced GDP, which is our first look at the GDP data. So a good reading is, of course, positive. We're expecting 2.4%. Anything around 2.4% or higher is great. And then Wednesday, we got Powell and the FOMC rate decision. Now, despite all the headlines and all the back and forth with Trump and Powell, look, we're not expecting any kind of rate cut whatsoever. Pretty much baked in that there's not going to be a rate cut, even though Trump is saying he expects Powell to do the right thing. We're just not really seeing that as of right now. It's not until September that we are really expecting a rate cut. So it's all going to be about the language and, how the press conference with Powell goes. So we'll see. But no rate cut is expected, and it's going to be the same old. And then we'll probably get some more headlines, Powell's too slow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, noise. Then we go on to Thursday to the core PCE, which is the Fed's preferred inflation measure, along with the super core, expecting 0.3%. Anything lower than that would be nice. Then you got the employment cost and the weekly unemployment claims. And then we close out the week with more jobs data. On Friday, we get the non-farm employment and the unemployment rate. Looking for some good numbers there. And then, of course, the ISM manufacturing PMI to close out the week. So, there's something pretty much going on every day. If it's not something with earnings, it is definitely something with the economic data, or both. So, Wednesday, you got all this FOMC stuff, and then you got, earnings from Meta and Microsoft, and then Thursday, Apple and Amazon. It's practically the Super Bowl week for the entire market. So, definitely pay attention to what's going on. We'll be posting updates throughout the day, throughout the week as reminders. It's going to be crazy. Moving on, as far as, we're going to jump back into the charts real quick. As far as sectors go, financials continue to look really strong here, moving into all-time highs. Excuse me. Some of my favorite names here is Goldman, ticker GS, breaking out into fresh all-time highs at about the 730 mark, looking like it's going to push towards the 750. You also got JP Morgan trying to push up and out to the 300 mark. As you can see, this chart looks really well, bottom left to top right, just making higher highs. You also got Citigroup looking really impressive as well. Yeah, industrials look really strong too. You got URI looking to break out into all-time highs. Semiconductors, they're kind of stale right now. There's some hit or miss names, but Broadcom continues to be impressive. Nvidia also looks pretty good. AMD has gotten a lot of traction over the past 2 weeks or so, especially after breaking out of this 150 mark. You do have earnings on this one coming up next Tuesday, not this upcoming Tuesday, but next Tuesday. There's just a lot going on, but Broadcom looks good. I'm keeping an eye on Dell here. Dell looks pretty interesting in my opinion. You got this breakout above 130. You do have a gap to fill. Let me take off these moving averages so you can see the chart a little bit better. But as you can see, we did break out above 130. Now we're pushing into this gap, which gap fill would be at about 141.50. So Dell looks pretty impressive. Utilities had that nice all-time high breakout last week. Looking for some follow through as long as 83.41 holds up. One of my favorites that I'm keeping an eye on is Southern Company. If it wants to retest this 94.50 and hold, that would be a confirmation for me that it is time to go long and take on this fresh all-time highs. As you can see, momentum looks really nice here and increasing. So all in all, we got some really good names. You know, keep your focus on key leaders. Robinhood has earnings this week. Palantir is a beast in its own right. Yeah, continue to focus on leadership. I mean, that's all there is to it, pretty much, as the market continues to break out into all-time highs. Continue to ride the wave. You know, that's been the message that we've been preaching for the past several weeks now, is that the market is bullish. So continue to ride the bullish train, buy the dip on leadership names, and until something breaks, there's not much else to really do. Just keep on grinding and keep on going. A busy week, like I said. So check every day the economic calendar, see what's coming up the next day, see what earnings are in the queue, and just be mindful. You know, just like I said, have that situational awareness on what's going on. We'll be posting updates daily. Not just my channel, but I'm sure some of the other analysts are also posting updates on what's going on broader market wise. But, you know, especially my channel, pay attention to it, and we'll keep the data coming out as it comes out, and I'll give you my input as to what I feel about the data and how the market is responding. So you'll always be informed no matter what. So there you go. All right, that is going to be it. Lots of stuff to digest. Continue to ride the wave. Yeah. Have a good week. Have a good rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you all on Monday. Have a good one. Take care.